Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course. We are very interested in this topic today, lucid dreaming, how it can assist you in tapping into your creativity, your inner wisdom, and for great spiritual transformation. My guest today is Robert Waggoner, who's been lucid dreaming since 1975, and he's got a whole host of information for us on how we too can work with this continuation of consciousness. Hi, Robert. Welcome.
Thanks, Lauren. It's great to see you.
Wonderful to see you too. Lucid dreaming, some might not really understand what it is, and more so might not even understand why it is so important. Can you help us with that, please?
Right. So lucid dreaming is an ancient spiritual technique. It's talked about in Buddhist Dream Yoga. It's discussed in Sufism, it's discussed in Taoism, and also Native American and other shamanic traditions have all talked about lucid dreaming. Now, the amazing thing is that scientifically, the evidence for lucid dreaming appeared in 1980. Because what lucid dreaming is realizing within the dream that you're dreaming. You literally know, hey, wait a second, this is a dream, I'm dreaming this. And so at first, you might not really understand all the potential that's available at that moment. But that's what I've learned over the course of the last 40 years of being a lucid dreamer, is how to become consciously aware in the dream state, how to stabilize it so I have a nice long lucid dream, and then how to use it in a productive fashion. And so that's what I'm hoping to educate everyone about so they can do it for themselves.
Yes, it brings to mind some interesting examples that I'm sure each of us have had. Let's start with the example of having a dream within a dream. Like, is that a form of a lucid dream as well?
Right. There's different types of dream experiences. So we could have precognitive dreams, we could have clairvoyant dreams, we might have dreams within a dreams or very vivid dreams. But unless you realize within the dream, hey, wait a second, I'm dreaming this, then it's not technically a lucid dream. So I'll tell you the very first spontaneous lucid dream I had when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. If you can imagine, I found myself in the public library and I'm sitting there looking at the books just like normal. And all of a sudden over there, I see a little baby Tyrannosaurus Rex dinosaur walking through the library. And even at age 10 or 11, it occurs to me, wait a second, dinosaurs are extinct. How can this be? And at that moment, I realized I must be dreaming. This is a dream. That's the only thing that could explain it. And so at that moment, I told myself, okay, well, if this is a dream, then I can wake up. And I told myself to wake up, and I immediately woke up. So that was my very first spontaneous lucid dream. And that's oftentimes what will happen to people. They might, for example, see their deceased Uncle Joe, and they think, wait a second, how can I be seeing Uncle Joe? He passed away 3 years ago. Then they might realize, oh, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. But even then, you have an option that you can decide what you want to do at that time. If you want to find out, is this Uncle Joe as a dream figure, or is this Uncle Joe as possibly possibly his spiritual form in the after-death condition, then you need to walk up to Uncle Joe and say, Uncle Joe, tell me something about the family. And he might tell you, oh, you've got to be careful here because next month, whatever. And that's when you realize that next month, when whatever happens, you realize that, oh, you received a valid communication. So there's different ways of working with all of this, but a lucid dream, of course, is any dream in which you realize within the dream that you're dreaming. You know, hey, this is a dream.
Yeah, that might be the part where people kind of get tripped up and not really make that awareness. So are there certain triggers that would indicate, like you said, you see the uncle that has not been around for a few years, or if there's something else in the dream that just looks off and you know it's off, it's that knowing that it's off, but we're not always able to put two and two together in that dream space. So what do we do in that case?
You know, and that's part of the issue is oftentimes in dreams, we just accept whatever happens. So we're driving a truck, then we're driving a car, then we're on a bicycle, then we're on a skateboard. It's just like we accept whatever happens. So part of the course and part of my approach to lucid dreaming is learning to be more mindfully aware. Because if you're more observant and mindful during the day, then you'll be more observant and mindful at night and more likely to become lucidly aware. Also, part of it is suggesting, the power of suggestion. So before you go to sleep, one of the techniques is the power of suggestion, like, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So if you see a famous actress walking down your neighborhood sidewalk, you just don't say, oh, wow, she's in our neighborhood. You think, this is too weird. This has to be a dream. I'm dreaming this, and become lucidly aware. And so that's the first step, is this idea of inducing lucid dreams. And during the course of the workshop, we're going to go over about 6 or 7 different techniques to induce lucid dreaming.
It's the awareness of knowing that you're dreaming, all right? And so you mentioned earlier that there's a potential there, all the potential in the dreaming. How do you then steer? So we're aware and then we direct our dream. Now that seems to be another part that people can get tripped up on.
Right. And so that's why it's important to work with someone who's had a lot of lucid dreams. I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975. And then the scientific evidence came out in 1980. So then I could begin to talk to people about it. And since that time, I've given courses all around the world and written 2 books on the subject. But the first thing is realizing within a dream you're dreaming. Then the second thing that the course is going to get into is stabilizing the lucid dream. Because you know you're in a dream state, there's certain things that if you do the wrong thing, you'll pop out of the lucid dream, and you don't want to do that. You want to stay in there. So you've got to make this state very stable. And then once you've stabilized the lucid dream, then that's when it opens it up to all the creativity and potential of lucid dreaming. So for example, when people ask me, well, why bother to lucid dream? I tell them, look, when you become consciously aware and stabilize the lucid dream, then you can access creativity. So you're deeply aware within the unconscious mind, and now you can access it. Whether you're an artist or a writer or a musician or even a business person, you can use it to access the creativity of your unconscious mind, and we'll get into that. Also, you can use it for emotional healing and physical healing. And these are 2 other just phenomenal things that at this deep level that you can achieve. It's interesting that the Buddhist Dream Yoga practitioners or monks, they say that an action performed at the level of a lucid dream is 9 times more powerful than one performed at the waking state. And I think it's because you're at this deep level of the unconscious, you're aware, now you can focus your intent on whatever it is, accessing creativity, healing. Also, you can use it to engage an inner awareness. And that's why I call my first book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self. You can literally stop in a lucid dream and reach out to the larger awareness. you could think of it as your unconscious mind, just, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see. And suddenly the entire lucid dream will change. You'll be seeing something that's truly important for you to see. So that just gets to the kind of basic surface of all the things that you can do in a lucid dream. It's truly an open platform.
Yes, and the fact that the ancient sages and the wisdom of the earth is well aware of it, it really becomes our responsibility, our personal responsibility to go into it and study it and learn how to work with it. Can you share more on stabilizing the lucid dream? Do you have an example of something in your, because again, it's like, wow, in hindsight, it's very easy to wake up from a dream and say, I remember seeing the floor and the floor was all weird. It wasn't a normal floor, but that's in hindsight. So it's like, again, stabilizing in the dream. What's that
Right.
like?
So here's what happens, Lauren. Oftentimes we'll become lucidly aware. We'll realize something's wrong here, and how can I be in Paris? I don't live in Paris. I've never been to Paris. And then all of a sudden we become lucidly aware. Oftentimes what happens is people become really excited when they become lucidly aware. And I'll tell you, it's like if you get too excited, you're going to pop out of the lucid dream and wake up. And so the first thing I always caution people is you really have to modulate your emotions. You can be happy you're lucidly aware, but you can't be so excited that you wake up. And so what you can do, you can tell yourself to calm down, because almost any verbal instruction in the lucid dream will be immediately responded to. So if you tell yourself, calm down, then all of a sudden, oh, you're immediately calm. Or if you're looking at something exciting, like an actor or an actress, and you think, wait a second, what are they doing here? Oh, this must be a dream, but you're still excited to see them. Then look at something boring. You can look at your hands or the floor, just something to reduce that emotional overload. But that's one of the first steps to stabilizing the lucid dream. And then there's 3 more steps after that. But that kind of gives you an idea of becoming lucid is the first step, stabilizing the lucid dream is the second step, and then 3, remembering your goal and intention. That's the final step if you really want to have a quality lucid dream. And that's what I really am going to try to get across in this workshop.
Beautiful. We're going to learn more about your workshop. Of course, that information is right here on this webpage. But when we're talking about remembering the goal and the intention, again, this is the continuation of consciousness. You said to be very mindful in our waking day so that we are aware of all the signs, and that continues in the dream space. There are some who have reported like waking up in the middle of the night, using the restroom, and then it totally all disappearing. Are there techniques and ways that you can go back into your dream and back into that intention?
Right. So one thing that lucid dreamers have discovered is that there's a way to re-enter a dream that you have just wakened from. And it's really exciting when you can get back into that dream that you just waked from. It's really an amazing thing. It's like a video skips 10 seconds and now you're back in the game, and the game's ongoing. So there are ways to get back into it by re-entering the dream. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll talk about something called wake-initiated lucid dreaming. And so that's moving from the waking state into the lucid dream state, into becoming consciously aware within a dream. And sometimes the best time to do that is, like, let's say you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and have to run off to the restroom for a second, and then come back to bed. Well, this is a great opportunity to try wake-initiated lucid dream techniques to enter into a lucid dream. And the reason why is, deep in the night like that, your mind and your brain chemistry is actually in a different space. And so during our sleep state, we use a certain kind of brain chemistry that differs from our waking state. And so when your mind is already dedicated towards this certain type of mental experience of dreaming, it's much easier at 4 o'clock in the morning to enter the lucid dream state sometimes than it would be immediately upon falling asleep at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, whenever people fall asleep. So there's various techniques, and also the timing sometimes makes a difference. But yeah, those are wonderful viewpoints, because it just shows there's a lot of potential here, but it helps to understand not only the science of dreaming and sleep, but also the practical ways to enter into a lucid dream, stabilize it, and then benefit from it.
So when we wake up in the small hours of the night, we should actually get excited, or not too excited, but we should actually welcome that and learn to play with it.
Right.
Can you share a little technique as we're going to go back into that space? Would you just go into suggestion? Is it breathing techniques? What do you do?
So here would be a simple technique that one of the scientists who investigated lucid dreaming came up with, and his name is Stephen LaBerge. He calls it the counting technique. So let's say it's 4 o'clock tonight, you wake up, you have to use the restroom, you come back to bed, and you think, oh, this is a great opportunity. So as you lay quietly in bed, and again, you want to do this all quietly because you're trying to return to sleep consciously. So you could do something this simple. Just quietly in your mind say, 1, this is a dream. 2, this is a dream. 3, this is a dream. And then sometimes you'll find yourself saying 23, this is a dream, and you'll be looking around and finding yourself in the shoe department of your favorite department store. And you'll think, wait a second, how did I get here? And you'll hear yourself saying 24, this is a dream. And you go, oh my gosh, I'm consciously aware. I've moved from conscious awareness into a lucid dream just by doing this wake initiated lucid dream technique at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you can see how fun it can be and easy it can be. But again, you still have to stabilize the lucid dream, and then it helps to recall your intent, whether it's accessing creativity, emotional healing, promoting physical health, engaging your larger awareness, even doing spiritual practices. You can meditate in a lucid dream and have incredibly profound experiences. So that all becomes open once you induce the lucid dream, stabilize it, and then remember what your true intent is.
Fascinating. We're going to get some examples from you and go a little bit deeper there. I wanted to ask about certain types of dreams, the jumping dream and flying dreams. I'll use myself as an example. It evolved over the course of time where I would be like jumping, and then it was jumping like with trampoline legs, and then not very well. Like you'd get a couple of hops, and then you'd have to go past people, and then you'd kind of miss a beat. But then it got better and better, like over the course of like 6 months to a year, and then 18 months of dreaming that way. Really very good at jumping like that, and then starting to fly with it. And flying was another thing. What's going on in that situation? Are those types of dreams that you can wake up and say, yes, I'm dreaming? Because at one point I remembered in a situation, in a dream, I remembered, oh, I could just jump my way out of here.
Right.
So we're getting a little close there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's kind of levels of lucid dreaming. Sometimes we get very close to becoming lucidly aware. So we might, like you say, find ourselves flying, or we're jumping over houses, and then we think, how are we doing this? This is too interesting. And at that moment, you're right at the junction of becoming lucidly aware. So if you tell yourself, oh, I'm flying, this has to be a dream, then you can go with that. But I think also on a symbolic level, sometimes flight has to do with our own personal freedom, that we're developing our own personal freedom. We're going beyond the laws of physics, the constraints of normal life, and now we're flying just to kind of show ourselves that we're really moving forward in life and really making some progress. So there's flying as the activity, and then there's also sometimes this symbolic aspect of flying. It can be truly profound.
So good just to be aware in that dream space. And you mentioned that we could use it for creativity and for emotional and physical healing. So then, if there's that conscious awareness in the dream, remembering to ask a question, like you suggested, is the next key point. Just remembering that and then staying open to what you witness.
Right, right. So I remember one time I was on public radio and they were talking to me about my books on lucid dreaming. And we did a show on creativity in dreams and lucid dreams. And so they opened it up for people to call in and share their examples of creativity in lucid dreams. So one gentleman called up and said that in waking life, he's a novelist. He writes fiction novels for a living. And he said whenever he gets stuck in writing a novel, he'll try to become lucidly aware. And then in the lucid dream, he'll call out for the novel characters to come to him and explain how to make the novel better or how to bring about a successful ending to the novel. And he'll say it's so amazing. 3 or 4 of the novel characters will appear and they'll explain to him something like, oh, you never should have killed grandma in chapter 3. We need her at the end to reveal the family secret. And he says it's incredible what happens, just the amount of creativity that comes forward. Another person called in and said that he was a professional musician. And whenever he became lucidly aware, he would announce that when I enter that next building, I'm going to hear the most incredible music I can create. And so he walks into the next building and he says the music is sublime. And now he just has to remember it so that when he wakes up, he can jot down, what it was that he heard. But it's interesting when you look at the history of dreaming, the music to Yesterday, the Beatles hit written by Paul McCartney, it came to him in a dream state. And there's just thousands of musicians who report that some of their most incredible work came to them in dreams. I think that's why Billy Joel had an entire album he called River of Dreams, because literally some of the musical scores were coming to him in the dream state, and he would just wake up and write it down and then put some words to it. So it's truly fascinating. What we already see creativity in regular dreaming, but when you're consciously aware in a dream, now it's a golden opportunity to reach out and access that creativity.
It brings to mind some of the dreams that we've had where we feel like we've been in a classroom all night. And so it seems like, this is a question, is it possible that some can lucid dream, but just not be aware that they're dreaming lucidly?
What's interesting is occasionally I'll meet people who tell me that, well, wait a second, I dream like that all the time. I just never knew there was a word for it. And so there's some people who are just natural lucid dreamers. And it was interesting. There was a research study by Ursula Voss, a researcher in Germany, and she wanted to find out, when does lucid dreaming just naturally occur? Because when they do surveys, about half the population says, oh yeah, I've had that happen at least once. And then about 25% of the population says, oh yeah, I do that at least about once a month. But what she found, she interviewed students who were ages 6 to 19 in a German school. And what she discovered is children as young as 6 years old were naturally having lucid dreams. And in fact, 20% of the 8-year-olds had already had a lucid dream. But in our culture, we just don't talk very much about dreaming, let alone lucid dreaming. And so these young children are having these experiences spontaneously. And that's one thing I want to get across. Lucid dreaming is natural and spontaneous. It's not harmful in any way that I can see. It's just a natural, spontaneous outgrowth of dreaming. And if we learn to cultivate it, then we can use it for creativity, for healing, and for personal growth.
And for creating great change on our earth. I know so many watching and listening really feel the heart call to step up. And so this practice seems like a beautiful way to really tune into our higher self. It's like we're tuning into the quantum field of all the wisdom that's out there when we're doing this. That really is quite amazing.
Right.
How long, go ahead.
I was going to say that I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975. And then it was in 1985, that's when I had a really powerful lucid dream that made me realize that in a lucid dream, you can connect to your larger awareness. And so basically what you learn is to ignore the dream figures and ignore the dream setting and just ask a question of your larger awareness, if you'd rather, your unconscious mind. Some people would say you're asking a question of spirit, however you want to phrase it. But you could just ask something simple like, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see. And so many people have written me saying that they finally felt like they've connected and interacted and engaged with their own inner awareness, with that kind of eternal part of themselves. And so many people have just been stunned by how powerful this can be. Because when you get that advice and that reassurance, and also that sense of inner support, I think you also begin to connect with it more easily in the waking state, where those intuitions and impulses are now a little bit more sharper and acute. And when you follow through, then you realize that, oh my gosh, how did I know that I needed to call my brother right then? Now he just told me that, oh, it was so important that you called right now because of this important issue. It's truly fascinating how powerful this is. So that's why, again, that's why I called that first book, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, because this is really a wonderful technique to connect with your inner awareness and then continue to grow. And also see the depth and the wisdom and kind of, I'll just call it the majesty of your own inner awareness. It's truly phenomenal.
That inner awareness and that inner wisdom brings such a peace when we're surrounded in the outer world by so much disagreements in a way, and not knowing our way, or different opinions out there. It is the eternal guidance that we all need to follow. And so in these dreams, I love how you say, show me something important, because I know in this dream space tonight, all the light workers are going to be working there, and we're going to continue to cultivate it. And we can even wake up sometimes in the morning and the dream can evaporate very quickly, but the feeling lingers. And so we may not remember exactly the parameters or the details of the dream, but we knew something happened in that dream. And I guess when we get lucid, do we remember more easily in the dream?
Part of the course is also about increasing our dream recall. There's certain things that you can do to enhance your dream recall, because you're right. If you wake up and go about your day, within 3 or 4 minutes, that dream has totally evaporated, and you just might be able to just remember just 1 or 2 moments of it. So part of this is increasing our dream recall, because normally when you have a lucid dream, and especially if it's a significant one, you're going to wake up and easily recall exactly what happened. But it helps to have good dream recall, because that will really bring it all home with you, and all the lessons that you learn, all the ideas that come to you, sometimes the responses that come to you. Because that's one thing I've realized in lucid dreams. When I do an experiment in a lucid dream, or when I reach out to my larger awareness in a lucid dream, when I get that response, I tell myself to wake up then, because I want the response to be clear in my head and concise and well formulated. If I keep staying in that lucid dream and go on for another 10 minutes, then sometimes it's a little bit hard to remember, oh, what happened 10 minutes earlier when I reached out to my larger awareness and heard back something. So that's another important feature of lucid dreaming. There's certain characteristics that all of us lucid dreamers discover, and one of them is, when you get what you want and when you get the message, wake up, write it down. Don't go playing around for another 10 minutes, because then it might not be as acute in your mind.
Very interesting, because I think I'm guilty of that myself. I know many others are too. It's just sometimes so luscious in that dream space that we just want to keep hanging out there. So that is really articulate training that you offer yourself. You say, all right, I'm going to wake up now. And then you literally have a pen and paper by your bed.
Right. That's what I suggest, that people have a pen and paper by their bed. Some people in this new world, they'll have their phone app and they'll speak into the phone what the dream or lucid dream was. But I'm a little bit old school, so pen and paper does it for me. And also, I don't wake up and write down the entire dream. I'm sleeping there with my wife, and so what I'll do is this: I'll grab my notepad, and in the upper left-hand corner, I'll just put a few notes about what happened in that dream. I was on a ship, and the seas were rough, and then the sun appeared. I'll put seas, rough, sun appeared, or whatever, and that's all that I need in the morning to remember, oh yeah, I was out on a boat and all that kind of stuff. So there's different ways of having good dream recall and different ways of doing it so that you don't get too waken up, because you still want to maintain good sleep habits and stay asleep. Even though I have found some of my best lucid dreamers, they're the kind of people who sometimes wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then might spend 30 minutes trying to get back to sleep. So I don't think of that as a great way to become a lucid dreamer, but some of the people who have that technique are that frequent happening. They learn how to become good lucid dreamers because they become awake, and then they use wake-initiated lucid dreaming to get back into the dream state.
Wake-initiated lucid dreaming. Yes, and would you find that certain times, maybe scientists have discovered this, that certain times of the night, like in the early morning hours like that, when you have gone through REM, for example, and then go back to sleep, sometimes I find myself have very vivid dreams when waking up and going back to sleep.
Right. So that's what science has discovered when they look at the course of dreaming over the night. Each night, all of us have about 23% of the night is spent in dreaming. But the first dreams of the night might just be for a few minutes. Then every 90 minutes, we get back into the dream state. And now it's progressively longer until you get to the early morning hours. And those dreams can last as long as 45 minutes or so. And so we're more likely to become lucidly aware in the dream later at night is typically the case, but you can move from the waking state into a lucid dream pretty much in any dream state, even at the onset of sleep. But you're more likely to do it after about 6 hours of sleep.
Interesting. Okay. So you have been lucid dreaming for a long time. How has lucid dreaming changed, affected your life, inspired you? Are there any examples that stick out in this whole timeline?
Right. So probably the biggest discovery for me after 10 years was realizing that there's an awareness behind the dream. And that was just truly extraordinary. Now, the important thing I think about that is that helps you realize that within yourself, there's your own larger awareness that you're connected to. Most of the time during the day, we're focused on our ego waking self and what we need to do to make it through the day. But sometimes we get those impulses and intuitions and connect with our inner awareness. But in the lucid dream, when you start to see it happen more dramatically and see the amount of creativity, then it's just phenomenal. But I'll tell you how this can begin to influence your waking life. So again, I've been lucid dreaming, engaging the larger awareness. And one day about 15 years ago, I was meditating in the middle of the afternoon. So I know I'm sitting in my chair in the living room. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I get down really deep. And I got so deep, I could feel my inner awareness. And so I reached out to it just like a lucid dream. And I said, hey, awareness, what do you have to say to me? Because I always ask an open-ended question because I want to be a receiver and that's what I want to do. And then I heard just distinctly, we want you to send $10,000 to your friend Paul back in your hometown. And I thought, what? And I came out of that meditation and I thought, what was that? And it gave the name of my good friend back in high school, someone who I'd see every holiday when I'd go back home. So that's about 8 hours drive from where I live. The next day I'm back in meditation again, and I get down really deep, and now I can feel the energy of my friend Paul's deceased mother, and also the awareness behind the dream. And I reach out once again, hey, what do you have to say to me, awareness? And it says, we want you to send $10,000 to your friend Paul back in your hometown. And I come out of the meditation and I talked to my wife. I said, look, whenever I have the same dream night after night, I always do whatever it's saying, because I get the sense that this is really important. This has happened twice in waking meditation. And she said, okay, let's send Paul a check for $1,000, and we'll say, Paul, we're your good friends. If you need help, we're here to help you. We sent him a check for $1,000. 4 days later, the phone rings, and it's my friend Paul. He told me the week before he had gone to his mother's gravesite, and he yelled at it, if somebody didn't help him, he was going to kill himself. And I said, Paul, what's happening? And he told me that 2 months earlier, his father, his 86-year-old father, had slipped in the bathroom and broke his hip. And so now he's at a nursing home where they say they'll teach him how to walk again. But my friend Paul says they're never going to teach him how to walk again. And I said, okay, so why do you need $10,000? He said, I need $10,000 to build a disabled bathroom on the site of my house, and I'm going to have my father come live with me, and the state will provide 40 hours of nursing care each week. I said, really, you want to do that? And he says, I've got to do it. It's killing me if I don't do that. He did it. We sent the money. He built it. His father lived with him for 6.5 years. He said people at work called him Saint Paul, because now he could do, he could live through anything. He had dealt with so much, he could live through anything. But again, that's what I'm trying to say. When you begin to connect with your larger awareness in the dream state, in the lucid dream state, and you consciously have these interactions, not only does it build your faith and trust in the inner awareness, but you also see the creativity and the broad-mindedness of it. And so that's when, during the waking state, when an intuition comes, it's much easier to accept. Now, normally they don't come with a price tag involved, and so I don't want to say that that's going to be the case with everyone, but sometimes you'll receive incredible intuitions that'll just improve your life, help you improve other people's lives, and just make for a better world all around.
Tapping into this greater wisdom, the greater awareness of ourself, the quantum field, the quantum mind. We're connected to it. The goal is to become lucid with it and to really steer our consciousness, because we're getting this information in the dream space, in the waking space, but the lucidity is that continuation of consciousness in the dream and sleep state.
Right. Also, I think lucid dreaming can show us how to relate to the world in a more mindful way. So just to give people an example, one time I found myself looking at a big black Doberman that was snarling at me like it was going to jump and attack me. And all of a sudden I thought, wait a second, this is a dream. But in that moment, I realized, okay, my larger awareness is showing me that there's some fear and anger and something going on here. And so what I tell people in my workshops to do is send that dream figure the opposite of what it's showing you. So if it's full of anger, send it love and compassion. And so that's what I began to do. I began to send this dog from my heart, because I was lucidly aware. I just began to send it love and understanding. And all of a sudden, it was so fun, Lauren, to watch this big, mean Doberman shrink down to a little dachshund, a little wiener dog like we had when I was a kid. And then I bent down and picked it up and took it flying around the lucid dream. But this is one thing that I encourage people also to think about in their waking life. When you find yourself in a situation where someone is giving you a lot of whatever, send them what they lack. If they're needy, send them acceptance. If they're full of hate, send them love. And if you do it within 15 or 20 seconds, you'll watch this kind of transformation. They'll feel it at deeper levels, and it'll change the situation. But so often in our reactive world, it's either fight or flight. We either just turn away or we tell them whatever, give them the what for. But in lucid dreaming, it showed me that the outer world is a reflection of something going on within. And so if we respond to that reflection in a new way with more love, more compassion, more understanding, then you'll see a dramatic change. And that's one of the beautiful things about lucid dreaming. You realize that you and your larger awareness help to create the reality that you're in. And so this is much like, the law of attraction or something in the waking world. When you begin to relate to things with a new feeling, a new idea, a new belief system, then all of a sudden you'll feel that reflected in your waking life as well. So that's I think the reason that Buddhists call Buddhist Dream Yoga, that's what they're trying to show, is that we exist within a co-created reality. And the issue isn't out there. Out there doesn't need to change. In here needs to change. And when in here changes, then out there naturally changes, and there's nothing that needed to be done out there. And so that's really the beauty of lucid dreaming. It drives home these deep spiritual lessons and really helps to transform our way of engaging the world.
That is the importance of lucid dreaming and why it is so beneficial to us, because it is showing us really who we are. It is showing us the subconscious fears, the limitations, and actually offering us an opportunity to flip it and switch it and do the opposite. That right there is incredibly healing. And I love that. That is the journey. I love it. All right. Well, let's talk about your workshop, because I'm excited for it and I know others are. Tell us about your course.
Yeah. So first we'll start with a little bit about the science of lucid dreaming, because this has been scientifically validated since 1980, and there's been a lot of research done on lucid dreaming. And then we'll get into a bit about the ancient spiritual practice and history of lucid dreaming, and why the value and potential of lucid dreaming. So at the beginning, we'll start with some easy ways to begin to increase your dream recall. And then we'll start with some easy techniques on how to induce lucid dreaming. And so that'll be the start. Then the second area is going to be learning how to stabilize the lucid dream so that you have a long quality lucid dream, and then how to remember your intent. Whatever your goal is, whether it's healing, accessing creativity, interacting with your larger awareness, doing spiritual practices, whatever it is, that's what we're going to work with then when we learn how to stabilize the lucid dream. And then finally, we'll get into some of these areas, because just the idea that, oh, you could use it for emotional healing, a lot of people, it takes them a while to think about, well, how would you do it exactly? And so that's when we're going to get into the more specifics, the more concrete examples to help people see how you move from point A to point B successfully. Because the goal isn't necessarily to have tons of lucid dreams, it's really to have lucid dreams of value, lucid dreams that help you, that educate you, that bring you what you need at that time and help you grow as a person. So that's kind of how the course structure will go along. I'll be there at various Zooms to hear people's questions and move them forward. And I really look forward to it, because it's so much fun to get into dreaming and lucid dreaming and see what we discover.
I always love hearing other people's dreams and how they deal with it. And then, learning the symbology behind it and the meanings behind it. Are there, and I just want to say for everyone watching and listening, you can grab access to that course right here on this webpage or in the link in this video description. The examples of some lucid dreaming, are there, do you have examples with your students about like healing, any self-healing that has occurred, or any others that might pop out at you?
Right. So I had a young man write me that he had GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. And so he said his GERD was so bad that he had to sleep in an easy chair at night. Or I guess he had pillows pushed up against the wall, but basically he had to sleep upright. So he'd been to the doctors, the medicines really didn't work, there was nothing that was working. So he read my first book, and in there I have an entire chapter on healing in lucid dreams. And so he decided, why not give it a try? And so the first time I remembered that, oh yeah, he wanted to heal himself, he really hadn't developed a plan. And that's one thing I always teach. You got to have a good plan, because when the moment arrives, you got to be ready for it. You can't be sitting there thinking, now, how do I do that again? You've got to have it all laid out. So the first time he said, well, he woke up and felt a little bit better, maybe 10% better, but it wasn't a cure. The second time he realized, oh, I've got to have a plan. So he made up a plan. He became lucidly aware. In this particular lucid dream, he reached out to all the dream figures there and asked them if they were willing to help him with his lucid dream healing of his GERD. And he said, oh yes, all of them wanted to help. And then he said, from their hands, they all put out their hands, and from their hands came this light that came right into his torso.
Wow.
And he said he felt this incredible energy and he couldn't believe what was happening. He said when he woke up, he knew he was a changed person. And after that, he realized the GERD was gone, and finally he could sleep laying down. And I just recently talked to him about 6 months ago. He said that happened about 8 years ago, and he's basically been GERD free ever since. He's just, it's all gone. So that's just one example of someone who's used it. But other people have used it for bad knees or bad ankles, or to deal with other issues. Sometimes I've even had people who do Reiki or healing in their waking life. In the lucid dream, they'll use their Reiki practices to heal themselves or other, and they'll say they just have phenomenal results. So it's really amazing how people have taken this and run with it, and it's great to see what the results are.
What's going to be really great to see as well is these stories as they get out into the world, as more and more people learn how to lucid dream, share it with others, share their examples, share their stories. It is a tidal wave that can't be stopped. We'll soon all be dreaming this way, and we'll have a greater awareness of it and a deeper connection within.
Right. And one thing that I want to also explain to people is, I hope they'll talk to their nieces and nephews, their grandkids, or their children. People under the age of 30 are fascinated by lucid dreaming. Yeah. And what I want is, and what I hope is, that they find a good teacher to teach them good lucid dream practices. Because I think what's going to happen, just like you say, someone's going to come along, have some totally amazing experiences, just like the Beatles did with a meditation master, back in the 60s and early 70s. And someone really famous is going to lucid dream something extraordinary. And then the entire world will be going, what is this lucid dreaming? I got to figure this out. So I think there's incredible potential here. But if you talk to your children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews, I bet you'll find that you have a lucid dreamer in the family, and they just keep it to themselves.
All right, so we're going to be asking about lucid dreaming. What is the best way to break into conversation on this?
Sometimes I just ask people, have you ever become aware in a dream that you're dreaming? And people who are in the know, they'll say, you mean a lucid dream? And you go, yeah. And I remember once my little niece, I asked her over the holidays, have you ever had a lucid dream? And she goes, oh, I've had 15 or 20, but they don't mean anything. And I said, what do you mean they don't mean anything? She said, oh, if I find myself in a bad part of town, I'll just paint up the buildings and plant flowers because I know it's a dream. And I said, oh, lucid dream decorator. And I said, okay, if you want to know if there's more to dreaming, next time you become lucidly aware, just shout out, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see. And I won't tell you what happened, but it was basically, she met her deceased great-grandmother. and her deceased great-grandmother gave her a family secret, which was a happy family secret. And so she called me up in the morning and says, what do I do with it? And I said, you asked for something important. You call up your mom and ask her whether great-grandma's statement in the lucid dream was correct. She said her mother burst into tears. Her mom said it was the happiest moments in her childhood that great-grandmother brought up. And there was just no way my little niece could have known that. And I said, why was this important for you? And she said, I always wondered what happens to us when we die. And so when great-grandmother told me that, and then in the waking world, I confirmed it with my mom, that now gives me a sense that there's something more to life that we carry on. So anyway, it's really beautiful, the teachings that we get in lucid dreaming, and that's why I'm just so excited to teach others about it.
Oh, thank you for sharing this wisdom and information with the world and teaching others how to do it. What a beautiful guide you are with the books that you've written and the people that you coach and teach on lucid dreaming. Really very fascinating. Our evolution of consciousness that makes us better as a human species. And truly, we can look around at our world and see some creativity and know that that must be inspired from this greater quantum field. It's just what we do with it, how we move with it, how we bring it into our world. And the Aborigines, they dreamt and sang our world into existence. So if we remember that, that's very powerful. We are no longer victims here when we're able to make this connection in consciousness, this continuation of consciousness. And so it brings up one last point. You mentioned deceased people who've crossed over. One thing that I've noticed in my journey is when someone crosses over in our family, friends, there's a point in the dream state where we may dream of them. And that feels like a visitation. Do you have any comments on that?
It was interesting. My father passed away about 20 years ago when he was in his 80s. And at first, the first time I dreamt of him, we were at the TWA gate at the airport. And he really didn't say anything. I woke up from the dream and I thought, TWA, Trans World Airlines. Oh, now I get it. So I'm coming to terms with the idea that he's moved on to a different world. But it was interesting. It was 3 years later, I see a ladder, and coming down the ladder is my father. And at that moment, I became lucidly aware. I said, oh, Dad's been dead 3 years now. This is a dream. I know I'm dreaming. And what was funny, Lauren, I began to laugh because he had such a bad haircut. I thought, he can't even get a good haircut in the after-death state. This is horrible. But then I thought, well, wait a second. Is this my dad as a spiritual being, or is this my dad just as a dream symbol of my own projected grief and loss? And so I decided I was going to figure this out in the lucid dream. I went up to him and I said, hey, Dad, you're from the land of the dead. When do you think Mom's going to pass away? And he said, oh, 2 to 6 years from now, probably. I said, okay, probably 2 to 6 years. What's he going to pass away of? And he said, a heart condition. And that really surprised me because my mom had never had any heart problems. I asked him another question. He responded. Then he told me, please be quiet. I came to tell you things. And he went on for about 10 minutes with a lot of family advice and some comments about what he thought was going to happen in the future. What was interesting, 23 months later, my mom went to the hospital and almost passed away from a heart condition. And then 3 years after that, she went back to the hospital because she'd been taking a prescribed medication that was harming her heart and almost passed away again. But she made it through that 2 to 6 year period and continues to live even now. So the beautiful thing is, that's how incredible lucid dream is. When you realize within a dream that you're dreaming, then you can begin to engage that deceased dream figure. And if they have nothing to say and they're non-responsive and they won't look you in the eye, they're probably just a projection of your own grief and loss. But if they're responsive and can tell you about things that have to do with the family and all, then you're probably talking with something that's much more deeper and profound. So again, that's something that all of us lucid dreamers can learn to do if we know how to go about it.
Beautiful. Really has us all ready to go to sleep and to pay attention in our dream space and to ask questions, to ask, yes, to ask and go deep in that. Really beautiful. We can see how our world will change when we connect in this way. Robert Waggoner, as we say goodbye, is there anything else you'd like to touch on as we close?
No, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to bring lucid dreaming to more people. And also, I just want to encourage people who have an interest to feel free to check it out, because whether it's dreaming or lucid dreaming, connecting and engaging with our unconscious makes us a more integrated person. And even if we don't understand our dreams, or even if it just goes right by us, still that connecting is important and kind of makes us more our true, more fulfilled self. So I look forward to meeting people in the workshop, and thanks so much again for this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, Robert Waggoner, the author of 2 books on lucid dreaming, is available for everyone watching and listening to dive deeper into your own lucid dreaming realm. Thank you, Robert. Namaste.
Thank you.